Hello and welcome back to the Jessica Pinelli podcast. What is crack-a-lackin'? It is Tuesday. Happy Tuesday from me to you. Whenever you're listening to this, I actually felt so terrible just before I started this recording. I have both dogs. So if you're like, what do you mean both dogs? I am dog sitting for my sister's dog and our family dog. They were both in here and I had to kick them out. My family dog, Layla, she's fine. She's quiet. She goes to sleep. Luna goes to sleep, but she snores like a man or like a lawn mower. It is so freaking loud. I should have just like gotten a little recording of her before I started to show you guys. It's so loud. I'm like, I can't be having you snoring like that while I'm trying to do a podcast episode. So I was like tricking them to go out, and then I got back in. I'm like, oh, I feel really terrible. But we've got an exciting podcast episode coming up. I'm going to be speaking to you today all about your capacity, breaking your glass ceiling, and being able to actually expand beyond where you're at. Now, to kind of set the scene, I just want to tell you a story. When I was a fitness manager, there was a particular Monday where I woke up, and this had been like a buildup of months and months of depression, anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of self criticism, and just really looking for clarity and direction. Now, the thing with me is I'm ambitious. I am a high achiever. I had these big goals. So for me, it wasn't and this is the type of women I work with. It wasn't a matter of fact of like, I don't want to do anything with my life or like there's no purpose for me. I was like, I know I have a big purpose. I know I'm here to create something big, but right now my current circumstances, they are showing me otherwise. And being in this job, and if you've been listening for the longest time to the podcast, I've shared little bits and pieces of my time in the fitness industry, especially as it was coming towards the end. And this is close to when it was coming towards the end. But I remember there's one particular Monday, I woke up and I was so depressed. Like, I didn't want to go to the job. I didn't want to like my bosses. And this isn't like me. Even when I was a barista during uni, I would still hustle and go there and be the best barista possible. And I remember waking up and I felt so depressed. I felt so anxious. And I called my dad, who was working away. And I said, like, what can I say? What's a believable excuse to get out of work today, maybe a couple of days? I don't want to go. I hate it. Like, when you just you feel so emotionally exhausted and you feel this pit in your stomach, like this deep pit in your stomach, and you just don't want to face it. And it's like, if I have to do this one more time, like it's just going to send me on a spiral. That is quite literally where I was at with that job, with my purpose, with my direction in life. I just also want to preface this by saying there were other factors. Like, I was in a situationship for nearly 3 years. I was feeling disconnected from some of my best friends who, funnily enough, are no longer in my life. And for good reason, everything happens for a reason. My money situation as well. Like, I was making money, but I had nothing to show for it. So I was living in this constant stress. So there was a buildup of a couple of things that really led me down to this path of this one morning calling my dad, like crying my eyes out, and just it was like 5 a.m., crying my eyes out. And I just remember being like, what can I do? And I had the biggest anxiety, like panic attack, calling my boss and just saying, like, I'm so sick. And even when I said that, like, I felt sick saying that. And I could tell they knew something else was up. And from that day, and why I share with you this particular day and how it feeds into what we're going to speak about today, I really knew that I had come to a glass ceiling. Like, I was just sitting underneath this glass ceiling and I couldn't break through, or subconsciously, and we're going to go into that today. Subconsciously, I didn't want to break through, and I knew that something had to change. So, if you're at this point in life, you're a high achiever, you're ambitious, you have big goals and big dreams, these are the type of women that I work with, but you are finding yourself fearing judgment, you're finding yourself in the same cycles and patterns of behavior, lots of self sabotage. If you find yourself having a cap with your income, with your money, regardless of whether you have a business or whether you're in a career, remember, just because you have a 9 to 5 doesn't mean that you're capped at just your salary payment. If you find that you are having these deep rooted like feelings of doubt, even though the other side of you, you're a little bit confused because you're like, hang on a second. I know that I'm here to create something big. I know that I want more. I know that I want to do this and that, and I want to create, but I just feel so down, or I feel like I have this motivation and momentum, but the momentum just keeps going in a circle. Like you feel like you're going in a circle with the things you're doing and you're working harder, you're trying harder, or maybe it's the complete opposite. You're just not doing anything at all. You're just not showing up. And that's kind of how the point that I was getting to, that I was working hard, I was putting in a lot of effort, and, it was nothing to do with the clientele that I had in the fitness industry. I love them, they helped me grow as a person, but it was definitely the environment and my bosses. And I found myself just not wanting to show up. I found myself not wanting to work towards anything. This is when I also started showing up on social media and just sharing like my fitness journey, but sharing like personal development stuff. There was a little period of time where I was like, I'm just not going to show up. So if you're struggling with any of these signs, this is probably a clear indication that you are hitting a glass ceiling, that you're currently at a glass ceiling. And I want you to workshop on looking at your subconscious beliefs, but I want to give you a particular way that is going to kind of help you break through with this. So, when we are hitting a glass ceiling, we are actually hitting up against our deep rooted subconscious limiting beliefs. You are only as strong and as successful and as wealthy as your limiting belief. So if your limiting belief is rooted in I must work harder for more money, that is going to forever be your rule that you live by. If you have a limiting belief that rich people are evil, that is the rule. Like you could want to be a millionaire, but if you have that subconscious belief, your brain is quite literally going to avoid doing anything because you subconsciously believe that if you have money, you are going to be evil. Even though consciously, and this is what I want to point out, maybe consciously you're like, no, like I want to be a millionaire. I want to have, disposable income. I want to be able to book a trip whenever, or I want to donate to my favorite charity, or I want to help my parents out with their mortgage, like whatever you want to do. But if your subconscious belief is quite literally, and you picked it up from your parents, primary caregivers, relationships, societal conditioning, being rich is evil, you will do whatever to avoid it. And so, when it comes to the subconscious belief, and this is really the work that we do across the board in all of my containers with all of my clients, but the most high level, apart from my one-on-one high level touch point, it's hybrid support, is Woman Mastery Mastermind. So Woman Mastery Mastermind, the mastermind is 6 months. It's all about being able to overcome and uncover your internal blockers to success. So the things that I'm really speaking about in today's episode, we go through them so you can scale your success in wealth, relationships, and career and business, right? And really find that equilibrium in life where you're waking up excited, but you're also you're not living in the fantasy, you're not living in the fear, and you're seeing the needle move. This is the work that we do exclusively inside of the mastermind. All of the details, by the way, are in the show notes below, or you can come over to Instagram and let me know that you listen to this podcast and you want to learn more about the mastermind. And we work together, hybrid support. So both mastermind group support and both one-on-one. I think it's important when we're doing subconscious reprogramming where we get to the nitty gritty. Now, something I teach my clients, and this is what I'm teaching you today, is number one, if you've hit this glass ceiling, look at what that subconscious belief is and start to just explore. Get in this really curious energy. Something I always say to my clients is get really curious like a little kid. If you notice a kid playing out in nature in a playground, they are just looking around, they're curious, they ask lots of questions, and there's this sense of naivety to them. And that's really what I want you to go into is explore. Maybe you're going to uncover some surface level beliefs, but I just want you to go really, really deep, even if, and I know it's hard, even if consciously you don't want to believe that's where you're at. I just realized I feel like my microphone is on a different setting. Let me just change that. Okay, that's taking too long to load. So hopefully this recording has not been too loud for you in your ears. But anyway, I really want you to start to embody first and foremost when discovering and uncovering these subconscious beliefs, like understanding exactly what is happening. Like what is that belief system, even if consciously you don't want to believe it. The second is understanding the secondary belief to that. that. So with subconscious beliefs, there's always a primary belief and there's always a secondary belief. The secondary belief that's attached to that is something that is keeping you safe because you benefit from it. You will always, if you have a limiting belief and you're playing into it, and you're like, I've been trying to change, I've been trying to have new habits, or every 3 months I find myself back in the same circles, there is a subconscious benefit. So you may realize that you have the belief that working harder equals more success or equals more money. And I actually workshop this with a client the other day. So I'm actually just going to give you the full workshop. So the primary first subconscious belief was, I believe working harder equals more success, equals more money. So my client, in everything she's doing in her online business, in her personal life, she believes she has to work really, really hard. So she is burning out by Sunday. She's feeling emotionally drained. She's not feeling like she has capacity for social interactions. She barely feels like she has capacity for herself and to look after herself. But she sees a little bit of reward. And this is what happens is sometimes we will work really, really hard. We'll see a little bit of reward and the brain goes, see, you're working hard, keep going. But let me just tell you as a side note, it doesn't need to be like that. You get to create in overflow. You get to create in expansiveness. It does get to be easy. Just a side story to this. I remember when I was in Bali in 2022, I was there for 3 months with my partner and I was doing a launch of my old group coaching. And I remember I'd launched that morning or the night before. And the next day, yeah, it must have been the night before because the next day we were going to a beach club the entire day. And I started to have this anxiety and fear. I'm like, okay, I should be really working on this launch and doing all these things. And then I started to say, I make more money when I have fun. And I remember, I think I signed like 3 people while I was at the beach club. Like this, I just saw the payments come through. And that has always been like a little bit of evidence for my brain to be like, remember that time you were at a beach club and you literally made sales because you were having fun. So that's just a side note, right? And these are the types of beliefs that we want to instill in us, especially when it comes to money, our relationships, and our overall success in career or business. So my client came to me and she has this deep rooted subconscious belief. So the primary belief that working hard equals more success, more money. The actual benefit and the actual secondary belief that is associated with that for her, where she has this deep fear of getting judged by her friends and not being liked by her friends and her family and not being accepted. If you go back to caveman times, where we are living in this tribe mentality, this is why community and connection is so important as a human being in this 3D physical reality, because we got literally brought up in tribes. And so quite literally in our DNA is that tribe mentality, that connection piece. And so straight away, we know that's embedded in our DNA, that's embedded in our atoms. When we have this belief of, okay, well, if you do this thing and you keep doing what you're doing, people aren't going to like you, your friends aren't going to love you, they're not going to accept you, your family is going to stop talking to you internally and subconsciously. And this is what we work on in the mastermind because it's an internal block. Is we freak out. The brain goes, well, why would you do that? You're not going to be accepted. There's going to be no community. There's going to be no connection. So you need to do what you can to not actually consciously go for the money you want or the success you want because you won't be accepted. And so that secondary belief of the tribe mentality of fearing what her friends were going to say, fearing what her parents were going to think, fed into the belief of you just need to work harder to make more money. And then what happens is she works harder, she gets burnt out, she's emotionally exhausted, she doesn't have a clear mind, she's missing appointments, she's missing connection with friends anyway. And she's messing up things in her business, she's messing up things in her social relationships, and then everything seems too overwhelming. And it's like the brain goes, everything's messing up. Like, see, like everything's messing up, and we get even more flustered and then we try even harder. See how it becomes like this self-fulfilling prophecy if we keep playing into it. And so the benefit of having, just to go back to the secondary belief, the benefit of having that belief is if she keeps herself small, if she keeps herself in this working cycle where she's burning out, she's not seeing any more success, right? because she's afraid if she has success, people are going to judge her. She's not going to be loved. This is her subconscious mind. She keeps doing that. The benefit is she is going to be accepted. The benefit is, her friends will respond to her text messages. The benefit is her family are going to acknowledge her when she goes to a family gathering and actually have a conversation with her. So we really need to also practice discernment with our cognitive dissonance, right? The way that I explain cognitive dissonance, if you hold a belief, it's like, I see this with women in relationships. I've seen this with myself in the past, so I relate to this. But it's like if you came from a toxic relationship, or even you watched your parents fight a lot, and always in arguments, and so you came from a chaotic background. If you come into a peaceful relationship, and let's say that one day, and maybe you, number one, yeah, witness your parents, they were chaotic, always fighting, and then you had trust issues in your first relationship. Then you get into a brand new relationship. It's regulated, you communicate, everything's peaceful. The brain is starting to freak out a little bit. And this is where the cognitive dissonance kicks in, because one day your partner may come home from work and say, "Oh, what did you do today?" And even though they genuinely are like, "What did you get up today? Like, I love you. Like, I want to hear what's happening." Your brain remembers all the time that your ex partner and your parents used to fight about, where were you? I have trust issues, like you're up to no good. And so when the partner, the new partner goes, "Oh, what did you get up to today?" The brain, instead of responding, "Oh, I went for a walk and then I did a bit of work and then I laid on the couch and watched Netflix," it goes, "What do you mean? What did I do today? I've been busy. I've been like cleaning the house. I've been doing work. What do you mean? Like, what are you accusing me that I'm lazy?" See the difference in that? So I could actually do an entire podcast episode on cognitive dissonance and how it shows up in different layers of life. So let me know in the comments below. If you're listening to this, slide into my DMs or take a screenshot of this current podcast episode, and like let me know that you want an episode of that, because I could definitely speak on that. But I just wanted to show you how that shows up. And this is where we need to realize our own cognitive dissonance when it comes to the success, when it comes to these limiting beliefs. So, kind of to recap all of that, number one, when we're looking, okay, first of all, preface, I've given you the signs and the symbols of signs and the symbols, signs and the symbols of getting to that glass ceiling, right? So it's the self-doubt, it's the self-sabotage, it's the procrastination, it's being really, really self-critical, it's finding excuses not to do something and not showing up at all, or showing up way too much that you're hitting burnout, right? And then to overcome these internal blockers, and like I said, this is exclusively what we work on for 6 months, you and I one-on-one and in a mastermind group, of being able to overcome those internal blockers, to really be able to create and scale your success across the board, right? Why this mastermind? Just a side note before we recap, like, why this mastermind? I have seen incredible results in this mastermind. Don't take my word for it. You can go to my Instagram profile at Jess Pinili, go through the highlights, my highlights, the mastermind, the one-on-one, and the clients one. Just go, and I even have voice messages from my clients as well. You can go listen, you can go read, see what's happening in the mastermind, see what happens, because my method is the woman mastery method. You master yourself as a woman, you master your self-trust, your self-leadership, you master your long-term vision, right? And you get to create clarity for your life. Oh, as I'm speaking, it is 11:11. Make a wish as I'm speaking. And the mastermind is something that shows you that, yes, you can listen to podcasts like this. You can even, invest in a masterclass, or you can get a free masterclass, or you can watch the personal development on YouTube. But that's going to generate slower results. You may not even get results, right? I found this before I invested in my first coach, is like I was actually consuming all of these resources, and I was like, I it's not even slow. Like, I'm not even getting results. But this is all about holding space to you. Like I said, tribe mentality that's rooted in our DNA, to find a community of like-minded women to support you, to listen to you, to hold space for you to explore exactly who you want to be, your vision. Like, this is the mastermind to do it. It really brings together that community, but it also shows you the ways that work right now, right? Rather than trying things over and over again, a podcast, a masterclass, a YouTube video, watching informative TikToks over and over again, just hoping for a different result, or it seems like your progress is really slow. Like in 6 months, you and I can guarantee you are going to see success rise and breaking those glass ceilings across the board. So again, like you can apply down below or just send me a DM over on Instagram if you want to chat more about this. But as we recap, number one, your primary belief. What is that? What is that subconscious primary belief that you were trying to overcome, right? Again, it could be working hard equals more money, or rich people are evil, or I can never find a regulating relationship, whatever it may be. Then you need to find the secondary belief, which is going to be really the benefit. So if you have the secondary belief, what's the benefit to it? And like the one that we workshop, the benefit to fearing the judgment is, well, I'm going to keep small and I'm going to still be loved. I'm going to still be connected. So if I keep playing into this belief, then I get to feel loved and connected, right? And it's not true. And I've actually done, just as a side note, I've done an entire episode on the fear of judgment. If you just scroll back a little bit, you can go find it. I've done it on a couple of fears as well. So that could be actually a great complementary to this podcast episode. But go look at your subconscious beliefs, the primary one, look at the secondary one, which you, AKA, is also the benefit. Like, how are you benefiting, staying the same, hitting that same glass ceiling? And I promise you, like, I know it can be really, really confronting to believe that you're doing absolutely everything. This is why the mastermind is also very powerful, because I look at your blind spots. And, a conversation that I had in the mastermind group the other day, we workshop this certain belief, and at the end my client goes, well, I thought it was about my relationship, but this is actually about my business. And I'm like, yeah, it is. It had nothing to do with your relationship, right? It was actually all about your business and the way that you're showing up in business. And so having a set of eyes on what you're doing in business and your personal life is very, very effective for your next level of success. Let me know how you go with this, whether it's in the comments here on YouTube or whether you slide into my DMs. I would love it if you shared this episode around with a bestie, even if you took a screenshot, tagged me in your story, tell me your biggest takeaways, tell me what you're working on. And I appreciate all of you. I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.